Eggy. I really like Eggy. Eggy's a nice character. APOY is a big Eggy fan, and I would say Eggy's pretty good too. I think not my favorite character, but Eggy's definitely up there, and she's pretty nice. I think her dynamic with Teardrop was really cool, and I'm sad that she got out because that couldn't have been further expanded upon.
Eggy is an interesting case for me, as a lot of people tend to say that Eggy does nothing or is bland. Are we watching the same show? Eggy has done quite a bit and is even important in some aspects, especially in Teapot. While yes, she didn't exactly do much in BFB other than be a loser follower, she has been seen being rather nice to Teardrop, which is a bit of foreshadowing for Teapot. At least in Teapot, she has improved immensely regarding her character. She's a lot more vocal towards characters and is somewhat of a team leader as well, even though she wasn't able to do much with that. Teapot 2 has the biggest one, being that Eggy revives Teardrop without anyone noticing except the winner. Later on, Eggy is much more open with working as a team, being more apparent in Teapots 4 and 5. She has improved as a character. Also, before you comment, "Oh, did APOY make you have Eggy be this high?" No, he didn't have any part of this. I have my own opinions, APOY has his.
The biggest starting point for a video like this would probably have to be Eggy's personality, which I know some people probably complain about because I either don't like it or don't acknowledge that she has one. So we're going to list off some keywords or phrases from her personality section on the wiki and her biography from the character guide. Quite kind towards outsiders, open to people she can trust, seemingly values safety, known to be fragile, rude and assertive moments, very confident, and picks out flaws in others. Eggy's rudeness is what I see most people sort of point out with her as to why they don't really like her character, either that or she just gets really nothing to do in most instances, but I feel like Eggy's a very important character and has a lot of defining moments, but the show doesn't really paint it to be super important, which I think is why she sort of flies under the radar. It kind of sucks that she's gone now because Eggy actually had like major plot importance in many episodes, like I want to say BFB 1, 6, and possibly 13. More so 13 than 6, honestly. A bit of 15, even though she was just like right at the end. Teapot 1 and 2. But like after that, until Teapot 6, she had like nothing. She had like good lines. She had really good lines in Teapot 3. I liked them. But she was a far less important character than before, because I don't want to act like she wasn't important. She very much was a component to a lot of things, but she never really got that chance after Teapot 2, which sucks, and I hate that. Circling back to the personality part, which I didn't end up talking about, I find Eggy to be a somewhat relatable. I'd say the biggest part is the quick to point out flaws in others that I mentioned. I feel like I can kind of come across that way, especially since I made an 8-minute video complaining about the flaws of Pillow. So I feel like we're kind of on the same level with that. Me and Eggy, we're bros. We get each other. Also, the fragile part, don't want to skip over that because I'm a very easy person to break. I'm not going to act like I'm not. Finding yourself relating to a character is a bit of a 50-50 situation. You could either like the character, or because you see yourself so much in that character, you start to dislike them. Of course, I follow into the I like this character because I can sort of see myself in them, but obviously I do want to point out that that can be the case for disliking a character as well. I wanted to fit this in somewhere because it wouldn't really go anywhere else, but in the Did You Know section of the character guide biography, it says, if Eggy suspects that someone isn't paying attention to her, she'll test them by adding blah 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 to her sentence. I really like that detail about her. I love that. Moving on from that, I like Eggy's relationships with other characters. I like her in Full Deep. I like her in Basketball. I like her in Snowball. I like her in Cake. I like her in Clock. I like her in Teardrop, of course. Eggy bounces off of other characters surprisingly well. Like, she's already a strong character on her own. I feel like she makes other characters better. Like, I probably wouldn't like Basketball as much if it weren't for how Eggy interacts with her. I love those two together so much. It's honestly kind of insane. They're not really considered a duo, but if they were, they'd probably be my favorite in all of Teapot, really. I love them so much, and I wish we got more of Foldy and her. Why did Foley have to leave so early? I'm becoming a Foldy fan now. This is an aspect I don't see a lot of people talking about, but I like the way Eggy's written a lot. She's very consistent from BFB 1 to Teapot 6, except for the fact that she actually shows like some growth. She's not like the exact same person, but you can tell they're not different people. I'm gonna bring up Nickel for this point because I feel like he fits it the best, but Nickel I feel like is one of the most inconsistently written characters across all seasons, because like in BFDIA he's sort of portrayed as very pessimistic, worst case scenario, kind of similar to II Nickel but not exactly, and then in BFB he's like, whoa, I'm zany but I'm also kind of just boring. And then there's like in Teapot 6 he's like kind of angry at everyone. Eggy's always been a very serious and curious character since her inception, and I feel like it's very admirable that she's been kept so similar and similarly written across all of her appearances. It's kind of hard to do that. It's harder than you think. Another aspect I don't feel like a lot of people bring up is voice acting and line delivery. I feel like Catherine's a really good voice actress. It's also kind of why I like Nelly probably more than I should. I feel like the voice work and delivery of lines affects a lot more than you might think. I can't like imagine anybody else voicing this character. It just fits Eggy so well. Catherine's just so seamless with her delivery. It's honestly kind of insane. Eggy's also quite a funny character, I must admit. A lot of her lines, especially from the early Teapot episodes, like really make me laugh, especially Teapot 3. I mentioned that before, but just some of her lines from that episode are so funny to me.
Well, I promised to eat the cake, so hopefully I'm joining pie.
Especially her last line of that episode.
Ugh, somebody please help.
Did somebody say marker?
No.
Just that delivery of the no to marker. Love that scene so much. I know a lot of people don't talk about comedy and Eggy in the same sentence, and I feel like that's very unfortunate because I feel like Eggy's a very unintentionally funny character, and I feel like it fits her character quite well. It's an enjoyable part, to say the least. I think Eggy's way of viewing the game, especially in like pre-split, is very, very interesting. Like, for example, in BFB 13, Eggy's biggest priority is winning the challenge with integrity. Like, she wants an honorable win and not just following in the footsteps of other teams. Now, I'm going to connect this with Pin, but I feel like Eggy's way of doing it was a bit more persuasive and better. Well, for one thing, Pin called it cheating and Eggy did not, so I feel like that's the biggest difference. But Eggy was far more, like, persuasive and eloquent in her argument against Cake. Pin was just like, oh, you guys are cheating, this is stupid, what the frick, guys? I'm gonna tell 2 right now. Eggy didn't go after 4 and say, like, hey, what the frick? We should not be doing this. But what I find more interesting is that this sort of, like, winning with integrity part of her character, it's kind of lifted once she's off a team that's not so loser-centric. Because in Teapot 2, she's completely fine with using other teams' ideas. I kind of feel like Eggy felt pressured into following Loser while she was on that team. And I feel like it kind of, I don't want to say it ruined her, but I feel like it sort of didn't give her much room to grow. And that's why I like her so much more in Teapot, because she's not like in the Loser cult anymore and doesn't need to feel the burden of living up to his name. Did that make any sense? I hope it did. All in all, with Eggy, there's no real, like, over-defining reason why I find so much joy in watching her, like with other characters. It's just that there's these bunch of tiny little details that I find so amusing about her that they kind of just build up and make me like her so much.
That is but a taste of our fury. Do you yield?
I'm breathy. Eggy Sounds 2004 votes.